Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at noon starts now.
A DPD commander dies from coronavirus as our own Evrod Cassimy details his own diagnosis.
You know, for me, coronavirus has been excruciating pain.
As the governor warns, one hospital system may nearly be at capacity with patients. The Senate hammers out a deal to jumpstart the economy.
Police Chief James Craig is about to speak to reporters about the death in his department. We're told that person died yesterday from complications from coronavirus. At last update from the state of Michigan, there were 24 coronavirus-related deaths here with nearly 1,800 confirmed cases. Today, we also learned Prince Charles, the heir to the British throne, was diagnosed with the virus. So was our very own anchor, Evrod Cassimy. You're going to hear from him coming up in just a few minutes. And this afternoon, the Senate will take up a $2 trillion deal that will send money to many Americans. Let's go ahead and begin today at noon with Sean Lay and new information on the member of the Detroit Police Department who died from the virus. Sean, we know the chief is getting ready to talk to reporters.
The chief just walked past us going inside the 5th precinct. The mayor 30 seconds ago, he just showed up in his Taurus here outside the 5th precinct. They're going to give a news conference straight away here at noon. We're keeping social distancing rules. We're staying outside. We have a live camera inside to hear what the chief has to say about his command staff member passing away. We are told at home last night, a very popular command staff member. We're waiting to hear if the chief confirms that if that command staff member was not in the hospital being treated for COVID-19, but was indeed at home. I'm told from my sources within the department, the very popular member was in his 50s. He led the auto theft task force. I'm told he did an excellent job there, moved on to narcotics, and then was a captain and a commander with the Detroit Police Homicide Bureau. Close colleague of his tells me that a few days ago, this commander, this captain, went home not feeling well, and now comes the shocking news that this virus took his life. He is the second member of the police force to die at DPD from COVID-19 in as many days as a 38-year-old civilian 911 dispatch operator. She succumbed to the illness on Monday. As we wait for the chief with the latest information on this and hear from the mayor, obviously very concerned and very upset that one of the two people now that they're mourning from this virus. But I can tell you, just getting off the phone with sources within the department, this virus, or the quarantining, being careful from the virus, has decimated the police force. More than 200 members now on quarantine, not on the job. They can't be here. They have to be home if they are showing symptoms, and they think the situation is only going to get worse. Let's go to the chief and the mayor about what they have to say.
And the loved ones of Captain Jonathan Purnell, and my deepest sympathy to the members of our department who have served with distinction with him over his plus 30-year career. Yes, we are family, and when we lose a member of our family, we all feel it. You know, Jonathan was an extraordinary officer, a leader who contributed more to this department and the community than I could ever say. He cherished his family and the department members he worked alongside, and we all loved him back. You know, as I was talking to a close deputy chief of him, he said one thing. He referred to him as a true leader, a true friend, and a great person. So he did leave a significant impact during his 31-year career. Everyone loved him. And we talk about people that serve with distinction, but really, he did serve with distinction. Just a short story. When I first got here 6.5 years ago, almost 7 now, he was a sergeant working in our commercial auto theft unit, highly regarded and respected. And he had taken the lieutenant's test, and he came up for promotion. And the thing that stood out for me is that his entire team came to my office and said, "Chief, we love him. He's a true leader. Please don't move him." And so while the captain never came to me, or then the now lieutenant didn't come to me, I just said how it was important for his career development to move on to another assignment. And they were sad. They were very disappointed. And as things would have it, He moved on as a lieutenant into another assignment, certainly performed in a very extraordinary fashion. And not long after making lieutenant, he was promoted to captain, where his last unit, one of the most elite, challenging units in our department, our homicide unit. And of course, I've had a number of conversations with him about the work. I remember sending him to Los Angeles to look at what Los Angeles does in their homicide investigations. One thing he came back and told me, he said, you know what's funny, Chief? You know, we handle about the same number of homicides as LA. But what's distinctly different, we do more with so much less. And that I know, having spent 28 years of my life. So a true leader, never a complainer, just wanted to make sure his men and women were putting forth the very best.
All right, you have been listening live there to Detroit Police Chief James Craig updating reporters on the most recent death within the Detroit Police Department. We'll continue to update that, of course, throughout the day on air and online as well on clickondetroit.com. You usually see him during our newscast on this newscast, in fact, but our Evrod Cassimy has tested positive for coronavirus. This morning on Local 4 News Today, he told us he didn't have the typical symptoms of a cough and fever.
Tuesday of last week, I remember texting my wife that I wasn't feeling well. I was going to take a nap when I got home. Thought it was just fatigue, and woke up that afternoon in pain. And I took the day off for Wednesday. And when I woke up Wednesday, it was excruciating pain all over my entire body. It felt like my limbs were made of wood. I couldn't roll over in bed, so let alone stand up and get out of bed. It quarantined my body for me. It was weird to go from wondering what is wrong and what's causing all this agonizing pain to finding out you have corona and just completely losing it on the hospital bed emotionally. And then hearing, but you're going to be okay. We're going to be sending you home a little bit later today. It was the most welcome news. And if I can use my story as just a word of advice to people, not just to wash your hands and to sanitize, but just to stay home, because you don't want to pass this along to anybody.
And we do want to point out that Evrod is at home. He is recovering, and he also says thank you to everyone for their kind words and their thoughts. In fact, most of the morning team is now working from home as a precaution. In other news, this noon overnight, the White House and Senate reached a deal on that $2 trillion stimulus plan. The Senate reconvening to take up the plan that includes direct payments to most Americans and money for small businesses as well. Tom Costello is in Washington, D.C. with more on what else is in the plan to try to pump money back into the economy.
Overnight on Capitol Hill, Senate leaders striking a deal, agreeing to a massive $2 trillion coronavirus stimulus package, the largest in U.S. history. The deal, which must still be voted on by both the Senate and the House, includes $100 billion of relief funding for hospitals, $200 billion for domestic priorities like transportation, childcare, seniors, and veterans, $500 billion for major corporate loans, and a small business rescue package that's over $350 billion. The bill will also provide a one-time $1,200 check to Americans who make $75,000 a year or less. The Treasury Secretary says President Trump will absolutely sign it. Meanwhile, the president hopes the country will be back up and running full steam ahead by Easter, just 2.5 weeks from now, despite repeated cautions from the nation's top health experts. However, his own task force advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says that deadline must be flexible.
On a literally day-by-day and week-by-week basis, you need to evaluate the feasibility of what you're trying to do.
Dr. Fauci adding there would not be a blanket recommendation for the entire country since cases vary from state to state. New York remains the biggest coronavirus hotspot, accounting for more than half of the country's cases and nearly a third of the deaths. The World Health Organization warns the U.S. has the potential to overtake Italy as the global epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic. The president also doubling down on the idea that economic instability caused by the virus could be worse than the pandemic itself. Tom Costello, NBC News.
Meantime, trading on Wall Street has been volatile today, with investors sizing up the $2 trillion coronavirus rescue package designed to shore up the American economy. You're taking a live look right now at the big board, and as you can see, the S&P 500, it's been drifting back and forth between gains and losses. You'll want to stay with Local 4 and click on Detroit.com for a full look at the markets during this very turbulent time. Across the world, the virus is still spreading. Deaths in Spain shot up by more than 700 today, surpassing China. Spain now has more than 3,400 deaths. That's higher than China's 3,200. It's now second only to Italy, where more than 6,800 people have died. The Spanish government declared a state of emergency earlier this month, nearly locking down the entire country. Let's go ahead and get a first look at your forecast. And here at Local 4, our morning show is staying home because of the news, of course, about Evrod that we just talked to you about. And that's where Brandon Rue is doing the weather for us today. Hi, Brandon.
Sandra, good afternoon. Great to be with you and enjoying the best day of the week out here. So happy to be forecasting live from Grosse Pointe Woods, just across the street from my house. And things looking pretty good. I mean, we're starting to see these clouds really thin out. So we're encouraging everybody to get outside, get a little bit of that vitamin D. Let's go ahead and check what's going on as far as current temperatures go. And here's a look at those. We are in the middle 40s, except for areas like Howell, where it's still 39, 40 in Pontiac, 45 City and Metro Airport, 44 Monroe, 43 in Mount Clemens. So the forecast the rest of the day is middle 50s with more and more sunshine coming your way. So it's a great afternoon to be out and about, Sandra. We do have some Thursday rain, some weekend rain, and we'll discuss all of that live with you coming up.
All right, Brandon, thank you. U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib has a challenger for her seat in Congress, Detroit City Council President Brenda Jones. In fact, take a listen.
I've served my constituency with integrity, humility, in everything that I have within me. I'm asking for your support and your vote as I run for re-election to represent you.
Jones served 5 weeks in Congress, filling out the late John Conyers' term, and then Rashida Tlaib beat Jones to take over that seat. A major grocery store chain is making some changes in the wake of the coronavirus, what you're going to notice at Kroger cash registers to keep you healthy during the outbreak. And we told you Prince Charles has been diagnosed with the virus, so what's he doing to make sure Queen Elizabeth is safe? We're going to have a report for you from London coming up next.